Joining me today, we have Rich Vass. He's the Vice President of Learning Solutions here at ELB Learning, and he has many years of experience in the learning field, and today he will be sharing some of that wisdom with you. So without further ado, Rich, I will let you take over.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. I am going to share my screen. Please tell me if you don't see it. And I'm going to share sound as well, because we'll be getting through some sound also. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. What a fun topic this is. Many of you have probably followed ELB Learning before we were ELB Learning, e-learning during our e-learning brothers days. And we have definitely been looking closely at the power of AI, adaptive and immersive learning for many years. As an education tech or a learning tech company, we try hard to make sure we are putting together the right tools and services, so the products and services, which many of you, I think, have seen. This is on the front page of our website. But the company has really been growing. So we're the shape of a circle now, but not really. But you can see that, between the products and services we're offering, there are a number of technologies here that we just haven't had before. We're going to talk about some of these today: gamification, virtual reality, video practice, platforms, authoring tools. There's lots going on in that space. We've all been, I always say, about 20 years. So since the turn of the century, all of this has been growing up. It's kind of brought us to where we are now, here in 2022. So when we get into the concepts around AI and adaptive learning and even immersive learning, this was a fun presentation for me to create, by the way, because as we talk about the three different types or modalities of learning, especially when it applies to sales training, there's a lot happening out there, not all of which we have done. So I'm bringing to you today some outside of ELB perspectives and tools and thoughts, and so hopefully you'll find this helpful. I dare say you will learn something today. I did in prepping for this presentation. So hopefully we can all agree on these three definitions. Adaptive learning: it is a system that adapts the presentation of the material based on the learner's performance. So if you want to assess me and my math skills, you might start me in a little course that has me figuring out what's 2 times 2. And then, then I have to figure out what's 2x times 2, solve for x. I'm sort of leveling up the difficulty. And then based on how I do, then you're going to present the learner. My learning experience will be adapted based on my performance in the moment of learning. So some of you may be doing that. We'll talk about that and how we're doing that and where we've seen that be successful. That's something we've been doing for a while. And I think maybe a lot of there's different solutions out there in the wild that are adaptive learning. And I think sometimes we think they're AI, but they're not. Artificial intelligence is a system that returns results from big data based on input parameters. So I can ask my Amazon Alexa or my Google Assistant, and I do have both in my house. I know it's like Big Brother's watching me in all my rooms of my home. But I can ask Alexa, "Hey, Alexa, who do you think will win the World Series?" And Alexa from Amazon will collate or pull together the data out there in the world. What is the World Series? Okay, is there a current World Series? Oh, yes, there is. Who's in the World Series? What's the general convention out there? What is the wisdom out there? What are people saying about the World Series? And based on all of that, Alexa will extrapolate her response. But she's pulling it from big data. So the AI constructs that are out there now, that's what's happening. Now, are there learning applications that you can harness today that take advantage of AI? Yes, there are. And I'm going to show you some of those. So when you think about sales and how to improve sales using learning experiences, AI needs to be part of the conversation. So I think it's important that it's here. And then we get into immersive learning, an experience that takes advantage of the embodied internet. And I do have a quote here today from Meta. Some of you may have been following their Connect annual conference. It was last month. Those of you who have an Oculus, you could have attended using Horizon venues, which I did. So we all got to be involved there in a virtual space in Meta's Horizon platform, Horizon venues. They got Horizon workrooms, and they're kind of going all in on the Horizon concept. But this whole notion around the embodied internet is interesting. I do have a 3-minute video from that presentation that I'll show you, and that was on October 11th. And then they released the new Oculus on October 25th, which was just a week ago, and we got our hands on one. So I'm actually excited about that. So I hope that maybe we can all agree, and I was a little hesitant to put in this little Venn diagram here, but we're here now. This future of learning is upon us. When I think about my background 20 years ago, when I was managing a team at a big financial company, 20,000 employees, my division was 5,000 employees, and I was in charge of all learning, traveling all over the US. These concepts right here, adaptive learning, artificial intelligence, and immersive learning, weren't really on my radar screen. So these have grown up in the last couple of decades, I believe. I was just excited that I could put stuff online and put a next button and a back button on it with images and text, and no longer have to release massive manuals that require constant updates and kill plenty of forests. But we're definitely moving in a new direction now. And if you're not doing some of these, I would encourage you to at least be aware of them, which is probably why you're here. So you can at least expand your knowledge regarding what's out there in the world now in the learning landscape for these technologies. But let's start with adaptive learning. Here's the concept. And many of you say this is a storyline course. We've done this for our client and for several clients, actually. You're going to come into this learning program, and there are 5 topics. Okay, and you're going to take a pre-assessment. And based on that pre-assessment, you may show competency in 3 of those topics. In this case, topics 1, 2, and 4. So you really only need to take topics 3 and 5. So this 30-minute learning experience has now been parsed down to 8 minutes for you. And you're going to walk through topics 3 and 5, and you're good. Maybe that's compliance training. Maybe that's EHS type stuff, environmental health and safety. It's the stuff you've got to certify on each year. Organizations are definitely moving in that direction. So we've got a storyline engine in which we've done this. It typically takes something like this. You want to think about it in advance. And that's the beautiful thing about the authoring tools today. Lectora is a tool that ELB Learning offers. And if you haven't seen Lectora recently, you should take a look at it, because there are some nice frameworks in there that actually make this, what I'm showing you here, very easy. But, the case I just showed you was Storyline. Captivate's certainly capable of doing stuff like this. Lots of new tools on the market today, but it's the learning experience designer who has to sit down and do that and think about a course map. And by the way, hopefully we can make this presentation available for you afterwards, so you can sit and look at this and think, okay, how would I go about this? You need to develop many modules, because you're going to be, rather than just one module that does it all, like my 5 topics I just showed you, you need to have them all as separate modules, because it's possible learners will move from one into another. So that engine, I call it an engine. It's a course map. We use word learning plan engine and course map here, but really you just want to make sure you've got it planned out in such a way that you know how that's going to flow, and you can move learners from point to point based on really a pre-assessment. One last slide, then we'll take some questions. I see some chats popping up, so and you can jump in, Stephanie, if there's anything we need to answer here. But here's the beauty of sales applications. When you're talking about adaptive learning, branching scenarios are awesome there. And if you haven't seen the scenarios game, which is part of the training arcade, that's an excellent way to guide the learning. Based on the learner's choices, they're going to end up at ending A, B, or C. So that's a great adaptive learning example. If you're a Lectora user, there's a branch track included in Lectora, and branch track allows you to build branching scenarios. So that might be something interesting to take a look at. Some of you may be doing that already. Product knowledge is another excellent application for adaptive learning. So if you've got a salesperson out there who needs to sell 10 things, well, then let's assess them on those 10 things and ask them maybe some client questions that might be asked of them and see how they do. And maybe they only really need to take training on 3 of them. So that can really help parse down and make it not so painful for some of your salespeople. Simulations, very much a part of adaptive learning. And scenario-based learning and simulations are different. And I've just been learning this in my last couple of years. So if you were to ask me to tell you the difference between the two, I might have a hard time. But the best way I can explain it is to say a simulation is a real life experience with multiple factors. Whereas a branching scenario is really just kind of one thing. I got one thing in front of me. I'm having a conversation with a customer based on this one problem or this one need. I'm going to go down this path or this path and make my choices. Simulations have multiple factors that are part of it. So in other words, I might come into a simulation and I'm running a meeting and I've got multiple stakeholders in the meeting. And based on my responses, I'm going to make 2 of those guys mad and 3 of these people over here happy. And I know I'm going to see these meters go up and down, and I need to manage that because I can't please everybody at all times. So there's a certain kind of delta, if you will, of margin of error or there's an allowed percentage of, I guess, incorrect choices you can make and still be successful, which is, I mean, let's face it, that's real life. So simulations are deeper, and that gets more, we're going to show you some samples of that later today, but that gets more into our immersive learning side, but it's adaptive. You're definitely making choices as you're moving through. And finally, I like the idea of recognition and rewards. And I don't know if any of you would agree with me on this, but when you look at the wheel of human performance, there is more than just training and development that impacts that wheel, right? As a learner, as a salesperson, let's just say, because we're talking about salespeople, I need to know stuff, right? I got to have things in my head, but there's so many other factors that affect my performance. And one of those is recognition and rewards. And because salespeople are often very coin operated, recognition and rewards is a big deal. So based on your adaptive learning structure or what they're showing in terms of how they're moving through their learning programs, you can position recognition and rewards in such a way that it can make a dramatic difference in learning and development. And our clients who have done that, they take the behavior change outside the classroom and into the actual performance on the job. And I think that's important to think about. You know, you learn about design. We've all learned about design thinking over the years. The best definition I've seen for design thinking is from ATD. And their definition is design thinking is extreme empathy, approaching learning from a position of extreme empathy for the learner, which means you are literally putting yourself in their seat and evaluating what impacts their performance. So not only do they need to learn stuff, but we're going to recognize them or reward them. Works very well for salespeople. And you as a training team can make a difference there. And if you can tie training programs to merit increases, to recognition, to their rewards, to compensation, well, now you're cooking with gas. So anyway, just some applications here for adaptive learning. I'll pause there. Is there anything popping up, Stephanie, that I should know about, or should I just plow onward?
I am not seeing any questions right now. As a reminder, everyone feel free to put those questions in the Q&A or the chat, and I will make Rich answer them.
Okay, if you are interested, by the way, in this, the example of this engine and how we used it here, we've got a storyline piece we can share with you. So just reach out to me. I'll have my email here at the end, or Stephanie can put it in here. We don't mind sharing that. I think we have a post out in our community that shows how we did that to create this adaptive learning model. And then again, if you haven't seen some of the tools we have, you don't have to start from scratch. One of the beauties of ELB Learning is you never start from scratch. So if If you want to take a look at the scenarios game from the game agency, their arcades, the trading arcade has games included there that do an amazing job of branching, and they're very easy. So again, you don't have to start from scratch there. Okay, now let's get into more fun stuff. In this case, artificial intelligence. So I really had to sit and think for a minute about what's happening in the AI space that affects learning. And what are we at ELB Learning doing? Well, I can share you one. Rehearsal is this one. Let me open this link here. And Stephanie, can you see this link?
Yes, you pulled up
this rehearsal page.
Right?
Okay,
yeah.
Great. So ELB Learning acquired Rehearsal earlier this year. It is a video-based practice and coaching platform. I'll spare you the video here, but basically it's a 1 minute video that just shows how, well, maybe I will show it. I'll just put it on mute since I like to hear myself talk. But if you watch this thing here, basically Rehearsal allows you, let's say as a training leader or a sales leader, this is a sales example, create the perfect pitch. Okay, this is the boss. He's creating his perfect pitch. He sends it out to his team. Team member gets right through the platform, phone, iPad, desktop, whatever. Hey, this is the perfect pitch. I want you to practice it. And I want to hear how you would do it in your own words. So then the team members practice it, and then they post it up, and then they get feedback from other team members. It's beautiful because it's all remote. You can do it from wherever. People can practice. They can get their perfect pitch just right. They can receive feedback on it. The coach says, well, I want you to try this, or I think you can add more of this. And then once they've got their perfect pitch uploaded, now they're ready to, walk into that elevator and do their pitch. So, and they've perfected it over time. We've heard forever that practice makes perfect. Well, I'm a big believer is perfect practice makes perfect. So you might ask, okay, well, that's cool, but where's the AI piece of that? Let me show you. So this is a tool, one of the solutions we have that actually does provide an artificial intelligence component. Remember what I said earlier, that it relies upon big data. So AI is going to rely upon, when we say big data, we mean all the data that's out there. Our phones have so much, data, the googly webs and all that. We can get to everything. So in this case, when I do my pitch in Rehearsal and it's recording me, I can get a report that actually gives me feedback on things like eye contact, my tone, my pace, and I get a little spider graphic that shows me the sentiment analysis. It provides this immediate insight on the quality and substance. And this is amazing. I've done it myself, and I'm extremely impressed. Our developers with Rehearsal have harnessed the power of some of the tools out there through Google and others to bring in this reporting. So not only do I get feedback on the words I used, but I get the AI feedback from the big data that's out there in the world, not just ELB, but millions of data points that live out there in the world. And this adaptive learning is part of, this is something I control. Like, did you use the right words? I can track some of that. But this AI piece is really, really powerful. And every single time I've done it, and I've done it probably 4 or 5 times, so, my role on the team right now today is to prepare learning solutions for clients. So as our clients come to us and we want to try something new or want to use this. So I've pitched this a few times to say, hey, you might want to try this. And it's really been a difference maker inside of some organizations. And then I've tried it myself. And every time it tells me my pace is too fast. And I'm probably talking too fast right now. So, and it knows that based on how quickly my words are coming together, how fast my mouth is moving and stuff like that. So anyway, there's a piece of AI I think is very cool. And that's something that we're doing now. Now, I want to show you a few other things. So I learned about Jasper through a podcast. I'll share the podcast with you. I'm a big fan of This American Life. If you want to write that down or take a screenshot, or we'll send you the deck afterwards. This was an amazing podcast. It was from December, I think, last year, 2021. Yeah, it's like, 6, 7, I guess it's 11 months. Oh my goodness, it's already November. But this concept around ghostwriting using AI is really astounding to me. And does it have a learning application? Yeah, I think it does. If you've never heard Jasper, It's one of the coolest sites you've never heard of. But Jasper is in the business of helping you write using AI. You can put in a few keywords, tell it what you're wanting. It can also create images based on your AI input. And the podcast does a good job of explaining what was happening. In this case, a woman had had a death in the family. Couldn't really write about it. It was too painful, but she was a journalist. And so she would ask the app, and I can't remember if it was Jasper. There's a lot of them out there now, but Jasper's one of the highest ones on the market. But she would put some of her thoughts into Jasper and ask Jasper to communicate the thoughts that she was feeling. And so what is Jasper doing? It is going out to big data, right? It's going out into the world of all written words on the concept of human grief, and it's pulling it back into a cohesive paragraph of sentences that make sense and just helped her to deal with her grief. And actually what the AI came back with was blowing my mind. And so you might ask, well, does that mean then that writers are going away? News writers, and what about us who are writing in instructional design and building programs? I don't think so, because we still need to draw upon that human element always. But what's interesting to me is that this is here now and it's happening. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth a look. Here's another one. Some of you may have heard of Da Vinci already. Now, we're not using Jasper that I'm aware of. Of course, our company is getting big enough now that sometimes stuff's happening and I'm like, what? We're doing that? But Da Vinci AI is an amazing tool where we're actually building images. So you're actually able to tell it what you wanted to create. Somebody said, show me an apocalypse in the future. And what is Da Vinci doing? It's going out into the web. It's searching on these concepts of, this dystopian future maybe, or some sort of apocalypse, and it's painting a picture and it's showing you what's possible in the future. And the ability of the actual data for the computer to actually build images is astounding. So taking a look at something like this and making it applicable, I'm going to talk about sales application in a minute, but for me, as I look into stuff like that, it really kind of blows me away. And I think we all know about Grammarly. These guys have started to advertise on TV and all that. But basically, you write something, you get that Grammarly plugin. I know we're using this. So our instructional designers are using Grammarly today. I don't know that it's a requirement on our team, but you can write something, you're doing a tech writing on some computer system or something that's new, or you got to run it through Grammarly, and it will suggest to you based on similar sentence structures, of which there are billions that it has access to, and it will make recommendations to you on how to better word that. And some are saying it's a lifesaver. So many of you may be already using this, which really is AI. And then finally, this little bugger right down here. I chose a really mind-blowing little graphic because I really like that. And I want to just say to you that I had to go out into an optical illusion to hurt your brain, because this next one, I think, my goal is to make our brains hurt a little bit, because as you sit and look at that, it should start to spin. Stephanie, can you see this image that I'm showing here?
I do see it. Yeah.
Okay. Don't look at it. Don't look at the center too long, or you'll be sucked into the vortex. But the reason I put that on the page is to say, here's something I haven't seen yet, and I'm waiting for it. Now, I'm a 30-year veteran in workplace learning and performance. I'm a 53-year-old guy. What I have yet to see in the edutech and the learning tech space is a system that will ask me questions before a learning experience. And I do a lot of online learning, by the way. I've been on the edX platform. I'm currently working through a philosophy course just because I like learning on a Coursera platform. There's a lot we do internally at ELB. I know that's probably hurting your eyes now, so I'll close it. But the reason I bring it up is just to say, I haven't yet seen anything out there. And maybe you guys could challenge me and say, oh, Rich, you missed this. Here's something you should be looking at. But what I haven't seen yet is something that says to me, oh, you're about to learn this topic. Okay, how old are you? What's your background? What's your career? What's your family dynamic and situation? There may be some tragedies in my life that maybe I wouldn't mind sharing. I share my tragedies with friends and family. I'll share it if it's going to enhance my learning. Okay, cool. What's your religious background? What do you believe in? What's your belief system like? So just let me answer a few questions like that. And then based on big data, return to me a program that is really meaningful to me. I just want to let that sit for a minute. Return to me a program that's meaningful to me. It takes into account that I was born in 1969. It knows that I'm a Gen Xer. It knows that, oh, if I have this belief system, I'm likely to think this direction. Now, you might say, hey, Rich, come on, man, that puts you in a box. Okay, but I allow myself to be put into a box with AI every day. I'm not stupid. I know that when I search for something on my phone today, Google's returning to me what it thinks I want to see based on my region, based on my previous searches. Okay, I get that. When it comes to political ads that are landing in my inbox, and by the way, we could spend hours talking about the morality and ethics of all of this, but we're not going to go there right now. But what I'm saying as a learner is I would appreciate that, and I would like that. Because when I'm learning, I'm coming to the experience with a very open mind, and I want to learn. And if you can deliver learning to me in a way that is very comfortable to me using AI, man, I'm down for it. I would like that. I haven't seen that yet. There are some platforms who are trying to do that. Degreed is trying to do that, I believe. I've been impressed with what I've seen there. Some others where I'm able to sort of curate, right? It's going to curate content for me based on maybe my job description. Oh, by the way, another factor I want is, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? There's enough data out there in the world where we could really put together something interesting to me. So my learning program will start with, I don't know, name it, right? So I could go on and on and on with this, but this AI, where we're headed with AI, love it or not, love it or hate it, it's here. We're already interacting with it. When you ask your Google Maps or your Apple Maps or whatever, or Waze or whatnot to take you to a location, that's AI. It's using big data to determine what's the current spot for you to go. It even knows up to the minute accidents that are happening. Well, how does it know that? Because of reports that are coming in from that area. So this wired world we're in is it's getting crazier all the time. We as learning professionals, I think, should continue to be aware of it. So I'm saying, as a 30-year veteran and a worker at ELB Learning, a guy who works here at ELB Learning, I haven't seen what I want to see yet. But if you know about it, please tell me, because I'd like to check it out. And if somebody knows of a platform or something that's doing that really, really well now, I'd like to know about it. Maybe share it on the chat so we can all check it out. That's where I want to go. So now, here's my 2 cents on how this applies to sales. Sales pitches, no brainer. I showed you rehearsal, right? The rehearsal platform is amazing. It can help you with your pitch, refine your pitch, and the AI component gives you feedback on how you're coming across, and it can be very helpful. We can leverage that. You can leverage that today using our tool at a very affordable price. So there's an AI application for sales that if you're not leveraging already, you could be. Overcoming objections. Think about it. If you could, as an instructional designer or learning experience designer, if I sit down and write a sales program for my company, well, I know what the objections are, but think about it for a minute. If you're in software, if you're in soft skills, if you're in retail, if you're working for the government, whatever, there are likely objections that are typical to your organization, and you probably know a lot of them. But what if you could open it up to the conventional wisdom of the world and all the data that's out there and start delivering objections that are very real world? That would be interesting. You know what you should do? Now I'm going to get on a soapbox because now I'm thinking creatively. I'm always a right brain guy, and I'm probably joined here by some right brain people. Somebody on this call or somebody should try using, let's say, Grammarly or Jasper to write sales objections. and then just run it through the tool and see what it comes back with. And like, oh, I hadn't thought of that one, or that's a good one, or that's a good one. AI is powerful enough and ubiquitous enough now that you could really start coming up with some cool stuff. That would be interesting to me to see what you'd come up with. Features versus benefits. You know, features is about what does this product do? What is it capable of? Benefits is why is that important to me? So from a big data perspective, I think that could be critical, and also competitor analysis. You really could take some time to really look closely at what's going on with competitors in a space like that for learning. Any comments or questions about AI? Anybody got any thoughts around what you're doing already? We could spend the whole day on this topic.
We did have one question, Rich, and I know that you're not specifically on the rehearsal product team, but do you know of any client use cases that are not for sales? Like, what are some of our clients using it for training wise other than sales training?
Yeah, great question. Let's go out there. I'm going to show you now. Let's pop out here onto the rehearsal website. We do have several case studies that live out here. Here they are. So there are several. So here's a Paychex case study. This was accelerating onboarding and driving employee engagement. Here's one that's seller, so that's selling. Edmunds, let's see, what was this one? Oh, this is also sales. Oh, here's pharmaceutical, again, sales. That's another sales one. Medical device company, that's sales too.
I think most of the case studies we have up there right now are sales. I did reach out to the rehearsal team, sent them a message to see if they can give you some more specific examples. So I will,
yeah, that's great. Here's
follow
coaching
up with you offline.
Yeah, this one's coaching. So whoever asked that question, I would say if you go to our website, rehearsal.com, you're going to see one on onboarding and employee engagement. So that's not sales, that's Paychex. And then there's this one down here on coaching. So the rest of them do appear to be sales.
But that's just what's on the website. I know that we have clients doing other things.
Yeah. So at least we got a couple there that are not sales. So hopefully that helps. Onboarding, employee retention, and coaching. And are there others? Yeah, Stephanie will follow up for sure to see if we can find other examples of how that's being used. And then using that AI piece on the back end is just a bonus. Okay, I feel like I want to say more about AI, but you know, again, a lot of you younger folks, I'm looking at, well, I'm only 53, so maybe I got 10 more years, maybe 15 more years in this space. Although I did know a guy who worked till he was like late 70s, and I love that guy. But this is here now, and we're going to start seeing more and more of it. And there's some of it you can be using now. And I think you should be, because if you're not, I think you're going to get left behind. Because when it comes to learning, well, what is learning? It's about learning what other people have to say about stuff you don't already know that other people are going to tell you about. And AI is bringing all of that together and putting it in front of you. So anyway, we could go on and on and on. But let's go now to the topic of immersive learning. I'm checking my time. Oh, I've got a good solid 15 more minutes. I'm going to play this video here. This is Mark Zuckerberg. And if you don't like Meta, and I realize that there's a lot out there with Cambridge Analytica and stuff that's happening. And, you know, I've been a big fan of Facebook and Meta. I'm an Oculus user. Of course, Meta made the play 2 years ago and acquired Oculus for $1 billion. And now they've just released their new and improved Oculus Pro, which is for the workplace. So, you know, certainly Meta is betting big on the future of immersive learning. But I heard this concept of the embodied internet, which I really liked, which is why I'm going to play this 3-minute video for you. And by the way, this is out here on Coursera. So let me escape out of here and come over to my program here. You can find this course. They just released it a couple of days ago. So they had the Meta Connect conference on the 11th of October. And then this just released recently. Unless I'm wrong, maybe it's been around a while and I'm just now, sometimes I am late to the party. But I'm going to start it playing and then I'm going to pause for a minute. Stephanie, would you listen and see if the audio is coming through? But let's just start here. Oh, hold on. I think I got to turn this up. Oh, here we go. All right, stand by.
Today, we're going to talk about
There,
the
I can hear
metaverse.
it now.
Can you hear Mr. Zuckerberg? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to let this run for 3 minutes and then we can talk a little bit about it.
I want to share what we imagine is possible. The experiences you'll have, the creative economy we'll all build, and the technology that needs to be invented, as well as how we're going to all do this together. The basic story of technology in our lifetimes is how it's given us the power to express ourselves and experience the world with ever greater richness. Back when I started Facebook, that mostly meant text that we typed on computers. Then we all got phones with cameras, and the internet became much more visual. And recently, as connections got faster, video has become the main way that we experience content. We've gone from desktop to web to phones, from text to photos to video, but this isn't the end of the line. The next platform and medium will be even more immersive, an embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the metaverse. And you're going to be able to do almost anything you can imagine. Get together with friends and family, work, learn, play, shop, create, as well as entirely new categories that don't really fit how we think about computers or phones today. Now, since we're doing this remotely today, I figured let's make this special. So we've put together something that I think is really going to give you a feeling for what this future could be like. We believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. We'll be able to feel present, like we're right there with people, no matter how far apart we actually are. We'll be able to express ourselves in new, joyful, completely immersive ways, and that's going to unlock a lot of amazing new experiences. When I send my parents a video of my kids, they're going to feel like they're right in the moment with us, not peering through a little window. When you play a game with your friends, you'll feel like you're right there together in a different world, not just on your computer by yourself. And when you're in a meeting in the metaverse, it'll feel like you're right in the room together, making eye contact, having a shared sense of space, and not just looking at a grid of faces on a screen. That's what we mean by an embodied internet. Instead of looking at a screen, you're going to be in these experiences. Everything we do online today, connecting socially, entertainment, games, work, is going to be more natural and vivid. This isn't about spending more time on screens. It's about making the time that we already spend better. Screens just can't convey the full range of human expression and connection. They can't deliver that deep feeling of presence. But the next version of the internet can. That's what we should be working towards. Technology that's built around people and how we actually experience the world and interact with each other.
Again, that's on, it lives out there on Coursera. I think you just search for Welcome to the Metaverse or What is the Metaverse and you'll find it out there. Any thoughts on that? I wish we were in a classroom right now and we could all just chat, which is why classroom training will never go away, because we can all just sort of jam together and think, whether you, again, like it or lump it, right? So like it, love it or hate it, this concept of the metaverse, and I'm stealing what Mr. Zuckerberg said about the embodied internet. No longer will I experience it by peering through a little tiny screen. It will be all around me. And he said, we're not going to look at a grid of, Zoom meetings, team meetings, or what have you. That's not going to happen anymore. We're going to have a real sense of presence, which is part of the whole experience. And I will tell you this, here we are in November. I can't believe it's already November. I think I already said that. But when I got my Oculus last Christmas, I came back to the office in January. By February, a few of us on Slack were communicating, and I found out 3 of my other colleagues also had an Oculus, and they were all over the US. I'm in Utah, had a friend, one of my colleagues in Vermont area, another in Chicago, and one in Florida, who also had Oculus. So we said, hey, let's do a Horizons workroom meeting. Horizons is Meta's workspace, or it's their gathering places. They have Horizons venue, Horizons workroom, and so on. So we all jumped into a workroom together, and I could share my desk. And if I shared my screen, it would come up on a whiteboard in the virtual room. I could write on it. I could look at the people next to me on the other side. I'd give them a high five. It was fun. We spent an hour, and that concept around sense of presence, it engaged me more. And in fact, all 4 of us agreed in the coming days after that experience, and we're not doing it anymore, we just did it as a little test to have fun. We actually had a work meeting, in the metaverse. But we agreed afterwards that the next Zoom call we were on felt like a real letdown. So we were just looking at each other on flat screens again. It was much more engaging in that sense. How long would it feel engaging? I don't know. But the new Oculus has internal cameras that are looking at your face. I don't know if you heard this, but the old Oculus had external cameras. So it could, it knows how much space you have to work around in. The new Oculus looks at your face, and it looks at your eyes and your mouth and your cheeks and your eyebrows, and it mirrors in your avatar exactly what you're doing. So again, you might roll your eyes and go, that's dumb. I can just have a Zoom call and do that. But it's, I guess the word is flat in this concept around the embodied internet and immersive learning. So if we're going to talk about this concept, we have to include this notion around becoming immersed in the experience. So I want to show you another video. This is about a couple of minutes long. It's brand new, by the way, so you may not have seen this yet. Thanks to our excellent marketing team, we're able to come up with some new videos that show you actual examples of immersive learning. So I'm just going to let this play. And you'll notice this, we call this a level 4 learning experience. There's 5 levels of learning at ELB. We have a foundational level, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So this level 4 is our highest level of learning. It's typically done by our immersive studio, which is the game agency. But I'm going to let this run about 2 minutes and just let you watch it. These are real live examples of immersive learning. I may pause it as we move along, but I know that my talking head can get irritating. So hopefully let this play. Thank you for indulging me on that. Did you notice that a lot of that was flat? In other words, it's not in the immersive, VR. We have VR and AR as part of that. But learning simulations don't necessarily need to be in a VR experience, and they can still be fully immersive because you're engaging learners in a way that is beyond just the typical lower level learning interactions. typically when we talk about level 4, we're talking about themes and style treatments and immersive stories, simulations. I mentioned earlier, a true simulation is much different than just a branching scenario, because there's several factors that are going on there as I'm making my choices. Just like life, based on choices I make today or don't make today, then there's going to be a lot of things that'll happen based on what I do or don't do. So learning simulations are just an excellent way to immerse your learners in something that will really make them feel. It's one of my favorite takeaways from many years ago is, you may not remember what somebody told you or what you read or what you heard, but you will probably always remember how somebody made you feel or how an experience made you feel. And that's when we start to capture human emotion that is beyond just the headspace. So a couple other things I want to show you in this space, and then we're going to wrap up here. This is an example of an actual course that does bring in this selling concept. So let me show this to you. This is an immersive learning experience that we actually built for Adobe. And I can say that because they actually ran this on their website for a while. So it's not like I'm giving away any secrets, but let's pause this for a second. I'm going to jump forward to here. Okay, let me just let this play. In this case, we were introducing salespeople to different types of customers. We gave them names. An Ignis customer is fiery, they're emotional, ego-driven. How do you find that out? Well, you begin by just kind of asking them questions and giving them comments and see what kinds of things they react to. We do some personality type examples as we move along. So the learner is being fully immersed in first identify your customer. Who are they? And now we're going to say, okay, how quickly can you make decisions on the fly? And that's what I love about this particular immersive learning example. Now, back in the day, we did not build this in VR, but we should have. Now we would. This was done a couple of years ago. But this concept here, let me scroll this back. At the end of all their learning, okay, now they need to decide, the trade show challenge, you have 15 minutes. Which part of the funnel are they in? What language would they use for their elemental personality type? Like me, when I'm a fiery guy. So they call me Ignis, which I guess is a term, it's called elemental selling. Which, it's about the elements. So I'm a fiery guy. So as a salesperson, you should engage with me in that way. And you should use words that, are emotion driven for me, because that will hook me into your product. So identify, what's their personality type, and then are they serious shoppers? This would work so well in a VR experience. And by the way, our scenario VR tool could work incredibly well here because you can put timers in there. Anyway, I'll stop that right now. But I just wanted to show you an example of one that we've done that we would make even better today were we to do it again. But things like that, where I have to make choices and I'm seeing people and I'm hearing what they say. Oh, wow, but this guy comes up to me and says, oh, well, I'm interested in your product because a very slow, deliberate thinker. Well, we might call that guy Glacium. He's icy, he's glacier, he's a little less emotional. Or Earth, Terra, because he's, whatever. But now I'm going to choose my words a little more carefully based on what I say to him. What's the right approach to him? And then the trade show challenge, how quickly can I make choices? I might end up spending all my time with this guy who's not a buyer, but that person is, so I missed my chance. One last thing, 2 slides left. I, years ago, maybe 2 years ago, was in Atlanta, and I happened to catch these guys. This immersion learning, and we had a great time sitting down and talking things through. This is an immersive learning experience that we've actually partnered with them a time or two, but we've not yet had an engagement with them. But it's cool, man. Let me see if I can show you what they really get into here. Let's see. They do get into some sales here, but let me go to why it works on the platform. So it is an actual learning experience that grew out of UCF, which is University of Central Florida, and it became its own company, sort of like Striver, if you've heard of Striver, which is a big VR company. They were born out of Stanford. So sometimes these students make just amazing stuff that's going on. They use human elements as part of the experience. So when we talk about, this, I'm going to engage with a scenario. It's a real-time dynamic sim that does call for full presence in the moment, but they actually have real live people on the other end. So they're actually walking through the scenario with you, but they're not AI driven. They're not bots. The simulation that you're facing is actually being controlled by an actor on the other end, which was really kind of cool. And this is awesome because they can react without the need of programming. So it's actually a cheaper solution than trying to have to build all the myriad of responses you might get in a sales scenario. So if you haven't looked at Immersion, it might be worth a look, or even trying a demo, because they're amazing. And that whole concept was astounding. I tried it myself, put on the headset, and a person came up and said, "Hi, my name's Bob, and I am a live person. I'm in Chicago, and I'm on with you right now in real time." But he was an avatar, right? You're about to go through a simulation where somebody comes into your office and they're very upset. It will be a live person on the other end. If you need help at any given time, or you want to stop the simulation, just raise your hand and wave it like this. We'll pause the simulation with a live person and I'll come back. Do you have any questions? I'm like, "No, thanks, Bob." I can see my hands, they're cartoon hands, they're avatar hands. And then I go into the sim, and then there's Barbara, and she's crying and she's upset. And I have to practice my conflict skills with her. In that case, it wasn't a sales relationship thing, but my heart elevated, my mouth got a little dry, I felt a little sweaty. So I got very engaged right away. That, my friends, is a great example of an immersive learning experience. So how does it apply to sales? I put in these 4 bullets here. Again, this is all, sales enhancement training according to Rich. This all the feels experience is really what it's about. We're now at a point in the learning world where we can engage more than just the brain and the eyes. Look at this image, read this, and the ears. Listen to this, and now change your behavior and go do something different. Now we're engaging, I guess the first circle and the fourth circle really come together. It taps into empathy, it taps into human emotion. So that immersive learning takes it to the next level. So if you're hearing in your organizations that your leaders are asking for something that's different, taking it to the next level, let's explore immersive learning. And I've shared some solutions from us, some from others, but this sense of presence and higher stakes, it's true. It feels more important. It feels more engaging. That sense of presence does make a difference. I don't think Meta is just whistling Dixie here. It feels like they're certainly betting billions on the future of the metaverse. We're already in there building pieces of it, but that immersive learning concept, I think, is that's important. And that's the end of my spiel. Any thoughts or questions right here at the end?
All right, Rich, thank you so much. I am not seeing any questions yet, but
okay,
we'll give everyone a minute if they have some questions that were percolating and they need some time to type those in.
And Stephanie, do you typically share the deck, or for all that registered, or do you just?
I can.
Or do you wait for them to request it from you?
Well, people always want the deck when it's yours, Richard.
Oh.
Yeah, if you send me that, I will put that in the email with the follow-up with the webinar recording, so that everyone can have both of those resources right there.
Cool.
Otherwise, it doesn't look like we have any questions coming in. So thank you so much, Rich, for joining us. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today. We love seeing your faces, well, your names on webinars. And hopefully we will see you on a future one. If you have any questions about what Rich presented today, just reach out to him, reach out to somebody else at ELB Learning. We'd love to talk to you about how you can incorporate these ideas and technologies into your learning solutions.